Good morning, everybody. I'd like to begin introducing myself. I am Glenn Roberts. I'm the Director of the U.S. Department, U.S. Commercial Service here in Central California. So our service territory covers from Modesto, Stanislaus County down to Kern County, and then from Nevada over to San Luis Obispo County. So that's a pretty wide area here in California, but it makes us one of the fifth largest exporting community in California. So we do have some opportunities for exports. Today's seminar is kind of geared towards those who have new technologies that are not quite ready to export, or maybe haven't exported that much or have a lot of fears. I see that we have Maisie Injector on the line. I've helped them in the past. Gosh, it must have been Jim, probably goes back maybe 15 years now. So it's a really a good opportunity for me to help out and to go through the presentation. Before we get started, I'd like to find out from the audience, maybe if you can use your chat box, is to raise a hand if you have exported before. Please let me know. Thank you, Courtney.
Yes, no problem.
And you all know Courtney, right?
Hello, I'm Courtney.
Please introduce yourself.
I'm here with the California Water Institute, and I'm helping with the technicality of things today.
Making the communications happen.
Yep, making the communications happen.
Okay, I'm not getting a response, so I will kind of keep going with the presentation. So, Courtney, let's go ahead and flip over to the presentation. And at any time, if anybody has a question, this webinar is for you. So please just ask questions and we'll cover them. We don't have a major group today, so we should be able to cover everybody's questions, and not a problem. You can type them in.
Yep.
That's it, right?
Yeah, just chat them in.
Chat box, and there you go. Okay, and then what we did, put this, just push this one over, right? And then we're gonna move it through this way. There we go.
There we go.
Okay, good. All right. So why do exports matter? Well, 70% of all the world's purchasing power is outside the United States. That's true. There's many different markets, big concerns for water technologies around the globe. I know you guys know this sort of thing. However, my ears are on the pulse of the exporting community and various markets around the globe, and I can tell you they're always asking for our technology. And we are in a good spot here in Fresno, of course, and compete well with San Diego as far as micro irrigation products and new technology. So they turn to California often, and we certainly want to make sure they turn to Fresno to make sure that new folks that participate today get the benefit from that. So as you develop products and start moving into the competing on a worldwide basis, you'll find that you have a lot of competitors. Germany's out there. You have Japan that's out there. You have some major competition out there, and they're going after the global market. However, we have increased opportunities for you because innovation takes place here in California and in the U.S., and certainly our products lend themselves to get out there. So one of the things I've learned over the years working with newer companies with newer technologies is that a lot of times they're not export ready. So this webinar is really to help you out to determine if you're going to move into the export realm, and if so, we're here to help. And if not, at least you know that you're avoiding some of the stuff, and you may not need the revenues from overseas because maybe you're just not staffed large enough to take care of it. So let's go ahead and keep moving through the presentation. Now, when it comes to finding buyers, often my desk, and 80% of my time is counseling clients, so we also get trade leads. And trade leads are coming through from our U.S. embassies and U.S. consulates. And this gives us a very high-end quality lead for you folks because they're vetted to a certain degree through the U.S. Embassy and Consulate. And a lot of times they ask us, do you know anybody that can do this or can do that? And so recently we had a trade lead for pivots irrigation. Of course, that's not really here in California, but we work well with the industry in and of itself and also with the Irrigation Association. We'll be there here in November. So, and it's a good opportunity. If you take the lead and you're ready to go, then you can pursue those leads. It does offer a good way of increasing the revenues overseas. All right. So 25% of my success working with clients is derived from people who are new to exports. And this has been, I've been monitoring this for decades now, I hate to say it. It's about 25% every year. I get new people who haven't exported before, and we take them with success. We have helped them grow their technologies and get them permitted in foreign countries, which is a big thing. While we wait for California approval, sometimes it drags on, and you guys probably have to endure from time to time. However, overseas, we can manage that process a little quicker because our U.S. Embassy or Consulate probably has a good relationship with like the Ministry of Ag or Ministry of Energy and so on and so forth. So we can help break down that barrier a little bit. We can get some products up there. So for example, way back in the day, like 2003 or so, I helped a company out of Bakersfield get their first biodiesel production. Now, this is when biodiesel was just coming on. And we helped them get into India. India needs fuel. They don't have oil reserves like we do in other places. But at the same time, they were able to get a plantation permitted and also for the processing of biodiesel oil. And that was before the big trend took place. And these are some of the things that we can do to help out. Also, new to exports, firms have different decisions to make. You know, for example, the biggest one I hear from companies who are innovating, you know, do they wish to patent their innovation first or get to the market first? I cannot answer that question for you, but I can tell you in experience that by the time if you're a small company and you try to file the global patents to protect your product, you're probably going to miss the market because it takes such a long time and it's a very costly endeavor to get those worldwide patent protections. So a case needs to be determined if, for example, is it more prudent for you to get into the market quicker or to go ahead and protect your product. Some of the newer ag tech can be protected to a certain degree with the algorithms used in software, stuff that can be locked down and tightened down, and it makes it really hard to reverse engineer it, and that works great. Then you can go to the market first and not worry about it. But again, these are something that you and your stakeholders would have to discuss in detail about if it's best to get that patent protection or to get to the market first. The companies that we help get to the market first have succeeded. I mean, they really have generated revenues, which helps them get that patent protection as they move along. But then again, as you well know, and any patent attorney will advise you, is that once you go into a marketplace and it's not patented, then you have a chance of losing it. However, when they receive U.S. products on a consistent, reliable basis, they really don't want to reverse engineer. They're really looking for a sustainable, reliable supply chain to help move products into their marketplace. And then another big thing I hear, probably number one actually, is how do I get paid? And I can tell you right here, we can really work with that issue and make sure that you get paid. We can provide the most amount of assurances of getting paid, if you will, and mitigate that financial risk to a big degree, because there are other U.S. government agencies that we have relationships with and work with jointly to mitigate that financial risk and to make sure that you get an opportunity to get paid. Now, those same types of risk mitigations for the finance side, it doesn't always extend to the domestic field. So sometimes it is a boon if you can understand the programs and get into them, that you will be able to mitigate that financial risk and get paid. There are scary terms to a lot of the younger new companies to export, like letters of credit. I can tell you here right now, I have an expertise in letter of credits. They may seem clunky, out of date, but to me, it looks like money in the bank. So we can certainly work with you. And then who's going to help provide support? And I can tell you, we have a community of exporters here in the region. Not only myself, but other agencies and also other companies who have experienced that, and that is through our Central California District Export Council, made up of manufacturers and service providers who are willing and are able to provide export counseling, maybe something that's more applicable to you. And so we do have a support network for you, and if you do get that trade lead that comes across your desk because they're looking at your websites and they see that new innovation, well, then now you know where to turn to. Okay, so the commercial service, that's our shop. That's the one that will help you fill the space and the majority of it. Again, I spend about 80% of my time counseling clients. The rest of it is bureaucracy. So we just want to make sure that each and every client that we're working with has that opportunity of mitigating the risk and are not falling in the pitfalls that are out there that others do. In my career, exports have proven to be a great job creator. And the administration understands it, the past administration understood it, and this is starting to get a lot of traction. America doesn't export like other countries like in Europe do, but as we grow our exporting community, we do have the infrastructure and the support to help you guys move forward and making sure that you get a nice profitable deal. Okay, working with companies who haven't exported before, the department has come up with $622,575 average 12-month revenue increase. Now, is that going to happen to you? Maybe. What we find out in exporting, especially the new to export, the first export is and can be, and oftentimes I have seen this, approximately about half of the small company's yearly revenues in one order. Well, okay, now you imagine that $622,000 is kind of achievable because they want to fill up a container, maximize the logistics to lessen the cost per unit in shipping. And so that's generally why we see the orders a little bit larger for the first time for exporters. Don't be afraid, but be aware of if it's a really grandiose idea or an order, that it could be a means to a scam or a fraud. And again, we will be able to help you to qualify those leads that you're getting. Okay? The data that we have used here locally here in California provides about, in the first year to 18 months of exporting, it will generate about 3 more jobs on the factory floor to keep up with the orders and the demand for your products overseas. So not only is it a job creator, but it will also provide a safeguard and a resilience to any kind of economy downturn. And we have seen this happen. For example, we had a manufacturer in Buttonwillow, just a small community out in Kern County, and they never exported before. We worked with them for about 3 years to get them ready to export, and sure enough, they started exporting, and 2008 came around right at the exact same time. And if it wasn't for exports and their first exports, they would have lost the company. That was the only sales they made that year were through exports. So now they're a little bit more diversified. They're exporting to other countries, and so it helps diversify your business income. And just like we diversify our own personal investment portfolios, it's a good idea to also diversify your business incomes to make sure that you're not reliable on just one marketplace, just like the U.S. Even though the U.S. is a great marketplace, and of course you should be there before you go overseas, but at the same time, you want to be able to diversify as quickly as possible. Okay. Any other questions at the moment? Okay, we'll keep going then. Jump back to there. Okay, so on average, working with the commercial service and then providing services back to the private sector, about $1 we take in equates to about $168 back into the U.S. economy. However, our office has been monitored and qualified for over $200 to every dollar that we get. So, are we making an impact? Absolutely. And so I think this is now the time where we can really get out in front and determine if we can move the entire industry forward at the same time. Okay. So just some quick fun stats. 8.5% are less likely to go out of business if you're starting exports. Actually, the companies who export usually pay their people a little bit more. And the jobs are there again because the revenues have been diversified. And so this makes quite a stable environment for your workforce. So we hope that we can move forward. Now, eventually, you'll have somebody on your staff handling all the financial side on the back end. And eventually, you're going to need representation across all the different various global markets. So it's something that you need to plan for, and we can help you out with that. And you can see how once you kind of plan for it and starts to coming that, oh yeah, we start out with maybe 2 reps over in Europe, and now we have 25 reps around the globe, and it kind of moves fast after that. But you always have to have at least one dedicated person in the back office to provide and make sure that the finances are going through and so on and so forth. Okay. Might be some product modifications that are needed in consideration. A lot of the world is on the metric system, of course. So what we do and what our mission is quite simple. We are here to help U.S. companies export, and that is mandated through Congress. And that's how we get our funding to help out. We help compete abroad. There are many different programs. I'm going to go through some of those programs now. So about 75% of the colleagues that I work with in our administration, our agency, are overseas in our U.S. embassies and consulates. And this provides them an opportunity to create the relationships with the private sector in their marketplaces and also with the government entities that are necessary. A lot of my colleagues have specific expertise. So we do have people who specialize in ag, and also irrigation is up and coming everywhere we see, and except for those countries that have plenty of water. But everywhere else we're seeing a growth coming up. We do have a delegation coming in from Chile. It's not for the irrigation sector itself, but we do have clients here in Central California who are participating and are flying over to DC to meet with the delegation. It's a high-level delegation with government employees, and also with the private sector. And so this is a grand opportunity. And so sometimes we can bring those opportunities to you here locally, and if not in the region. But for example, with the Irrigation Association show coming up in November, we have 2 delegations that we're currently working with right now. Romania is coming in. Romania has been here in Central California for World Ag Expo for many years, and they continue to buy our products. And also China is coming in. And so we will see both delegations over at the irrigation show. And hopefully, if you want a chance to meet them, let me know, and we'll be glad to notify you when they are in the room or at the event, and we can set up a meeting for you. And hopefully, maybe we can set the meetings up in advance, which normally we do ahead of time. But in this particular show, it is we're going to have to do it on an as-needed basis. As you well know, the irrigation show has a lot to do with education, but they have 2 days of exhibition, and then that's a good time for us to introduce the delegations to you folks. hopefully you'll be exhibiting there too. So sometimes we run into unfair competition practices and other things that might prohibit or prohibit you guys from getting into the marketplaces. We do work on those advocacy cases on a regular basis. It happens all the time. And we have some good success. I mean, some really strong success getting in there. And also, if you're competing or you're bidding on a foreign government contract, if there are no other U.S. companies bidding on that contract, well, then the U.S. Embassy can advocate personally on your behalf. If there are 2 or 3 from your industry that are bidding on the same opportunity, well, then the U.S. Embassy will then advocate on behalf of the U.S. industry. So either way, we push to let them know that you guys are there, that you guys are great products and innovation. And at the same time, you're known to the U.S. government, which a lot of foreign companies and foreign governments like to know as well. Okay. Excuse me. So again, reiterating that 80% of my time is spent really counseling local clients, and that a lot of times it's crazy little issues. You'd be surprised, but once you get into it, you'll understand why. But before we do, I always try to assess where you are and how able and ready your company may be. And that's, I make it an informal process. Through conversation, I'll ask certain questions at different times, and I'll be able to make an assessment. We do have an assessment application that we can profile later on, but I find that most people don't like completing them or taking them. So we just do it informally here in Central California. Until that trend changes, then I'm fine to go with the application process, but that's fine. But more importantly is the assessment process to make sure that you guys are ready. And if you're not ready, where do we need to firm up the support to get you ready to seize those opportunities overseas? So we do have a means to do background checks on your potential buyers. So again, if let's say you go to the market, first in market with your product and not do the patent protection, we might want to find out what kind of partner we're working with, what kind of reputation they have in the marketplace, do they pay on time, are they working with a good bank. We can provide that type of detailed background report on potential buyers for your product, which is something that a lot of people are not able to do. Also, like at the irrigation show this year, we hope to have some of these matchmaking opportunities, but we have a more formal process of matchmaking opportunities. So for example, at the ethanol show that takes place in February, we did about 140 scheduled meetings for the foreign buyers with the U.S. suppliers. And that's a small show in a sense, but that's a lot of appointments to make for 1 or 2 days. Also, when you get overseas and you meet with our people, or you can ask for customized market report, our staff overseas will provide counseling and insight. You just need to talk to them, and one way of doing that is we'll set up a teleconference call, or we will communicate by email, but at least you'll get their insights, and I tell you it's invaluable because again, that's their job, that's what they're supposed to be doing, and they really keep a pulse on their industries that they're assigned to. We have ways of promoting your products overseas, a couple of different ways, through publication, through hosting nice high-end events, depending on your budget. So we can go through that at another time. And then before we get going on all this good stuff, and once you get the opportunity of exporting, there are some regulations and compliance that we will help guide you through, and to make sure that you start off on the right foot and not get in trouble with the export regulations and also the compliance that you need to do. It's not too hard, but mainly if I can leave you with 1 or 2 two areas that you want to focus on for compliance is that the exporters here in the U.S. are responsible for getting to know who the end buyer and the end user and what the end use will be. So this is something that is placed upon your exporting privilege. And yes, it's a privilege, And then if you don't comply and you find that you're not in compliance or you violated some of the regulations, they will suspend your exporting privilege up to 5 years plus a fine, of course. But we haven't had any of our clients here in Central California have to go through that we've been working with. So we will help you get through the export regulations and also make sure that you're in compliance. All right. Any other questions right now? Mm-hmm. Okay. Again, don't worry about you can ask a question anytime. Okay. So we can provide customized market reports for your company specifically. There are costs that will need to be recovered, and we will quote you those costs, the time frame that it will be done. We make up an agreement between your company and our agency, and it will go through from there. And this is one way we do with meeting with buyers and or representatives overseas. We call it a gold key. I'll talk about that here in a minute. And then we have briefings before. So some of the nuances around the globe, the local staff will inform you of them. A lot of different Asian cultures do not like to say no directly. However, through body language and through other types of communications, they're kind of saying no, but it's not clear to a lot of the U.S. businesses. But the beauty of it is, if our staff is alongside you and they can tell you in a post-briefing that, oh, no, what they're really saying is no. So that'll save you a lot of time and trouble, that's for sure. Helping out with travel and interpreter services and appointments with prospective partners are all set up ahead of time with our Gold Key type of service. Okay. So as we start working together, this is an export assessing program that I run in the background, and I keep checking off these boxes here as you folks grow. And we're turning the red to greens, hopefully over a period of time. This is something that I ask you not to fill out. I don't have your time with it. I see it. We do it. Our office will do the same thing. And as you grow, we start checking off the different boxes every time we work with your company. We open up our database. We make notes. That way we can share those same notes with our U.S. embassies and consulates around the globe. But along the way, though, we're assessing your status as an exporter, and we want you to be one of the gold star exporters out there. And so we hope that you can work with us on that. Okay, your local office for all good things exporting here in Central California is right here in Fresno. And so here's the contact information. And if you have any questions, please do not hesitate. None are silly in my book. I have fielded a lot of crazy questions over the years. I have saved lots of companies on fraud, millions and millions of dollars on fraud over the years. And so I've seen a lot of the scams. I'll be glad to share my expertise, but also setting up the various appointments, talking to various country places, chasing down the leads that hit your website, chasing down some of the leads that we provide to you, and so on and so forth. So all good things will go through the office. I have a colleague, Bernadette Rojas. She's also in the office to help out. She's somewhat familiar with your industry. She's learning more and more every year. So yes, please contact us if you have any questions, or you have your website up, you're not ready to export, and yet here comes an opportunity. Let me help you out. Let's take a look at the lead. Let's help you qualify. Make sure that you communicate with them on a regular basis, and then we'll be able to determine if it's fraud or legitimate. We'll take it from there. So this kind of concludes my slide presentation, and I'm really here. This is your time for me to answer questions. Anybody else have any questions? Okay. Well, are there any people out there who have not exported?
Can you tell me more about the briefings your team can provide? For example, do your briefings help with the market research of trying to export to particular countries?
Well, thank you, Jeff. That is exactly what we do. We have some market insight briefings that are kind of casual but not so in-depth. But I'll give you a general indication. So if you're looking at a particular marketplace, and then the inside market insights, if they lead you down to, okay, we need to pursue further, then we have the means of doing a customized market research specifically for your company, and especially if you're trying to do a new product or innovative product into a country. So sometimes we'll have to figure out how to best price it, how to best enter the market, and those are some of the things that we can help you out with a briefing. And of course, that those briefings are then followed up with a conference call, so you and your staff can ask our people down south or over in Europe, over in Asia, tell us a little bit more about it.
And we have, can you discuss export regulations in greater detail?
Are you ready for a nap? So yes. So the export administration regulations are the main guidelines for you as exporting. The entity that handles it is also with the Department of Commerce. They're called the Bureau of Industry and Security. That would be one of the first places I direct you to go. There is a process to have them identify your product. So if you have a newer product and you don't know if it's going to be considered this or it's going to be considered that, the BIS, the Bureau of Industry and Security, they will help you determine what that classification number is. Now that classification number is really important because it's also the same sort of numbers that will help, and it determines what the duties are going to be, what the duty assessment will be for your product going to whatever particular country there is. Luckily, we have a lot of free trade agreements, and so the duties are really low. But there are other countries that you want to make sure you're using the right number, because you can be paying an extra 5, 10, 20% more than what you should be doing. Now, we also have to take into consideration of repairs. So there's a process, like if you bring in your product back into the U.S. and repair it, and then you send it back out, there are some compliances that have to be met as well. But that process with the Bureau of Industry and Security, we're glad to work with each and every one of you to let you know.
We have, can you provide information about the international ethanol refining market?
Yes. Is that?
This one's from Peter.
All right. Well, this year we are learning that there's going to be a little bit more of a supply than demand, and so we're going to have to help the ethanol industry find additional marketplaces. About 2 years ago, working effectively with the ethanol group, we actually, the U.S. exported about 1 billion gallons of ethanol outside the country, and that helps the industry, it helps the farming community as well. And I have personally been through about 5 mega plants throughout the Midwest, and to understand what the issues are, not taking the media, but to actually go there and talk to the folks that are making these plants, and also using the processors themselves, and also the co-op farmers. And a lot of the ethanol plants are co-op, so everybody has a vested interest. And yes, there are opportunities, but we have additional information at export.gov. Look for our market research. You can pull that down. It doesn't cost you anything. It's been prepaid for by your tax dollar. We maintain that market research library, but if you need additional information, we'll be glad to help you out with that. But I would try our market research library first at export.gov. Okay, let's see.
Could you let us know the range of potential costs for market research reports or for coordinated trips to countries to explore export options?
Okay. The first part of that question is something that we can address. It's about I've never seen it more than $1,100 for a customized report. I've seen them as low as $800. And that may seem like a lot, but essentially that is somebody taken offline at the U.S. Embassy or consulate to work specifically on behalf of your company. So that is a cost that's mandated through Congress that we have to recuperate. But all in all, the reports that I've seen come through have been the best decision-making aids that a company could ever get. And so that makes it nice. Now, the second part of that question was about coordinated trips, and that can be that cost varies from all over the board. So, for example, I led a renewable energy and energy efficiency trade mission to Turkey. It was well coordinated, well attended, and the average cost was about $4,500 plus your airfare and your lodging. Now, the lodging was discounted by the U.S. government discount rate, but we all took about 500 business cards, and most of us came back with about 50 or so in our pocket. That's how many meetings. We had over 360 scheduled meetings for each company in a matter of a week. And we also had all the networking receptions taking place and great networking opportunities. And that particular trade mission yielded about $2 billion in exports as reported. So yes, they vary in cost. Some of them are only a couple thousand. And then we have the State Trade Export Program. So the Center for International Trade Development can help you out, but up to about $2,500 they can grant you to participate in these type of trade missions that are going overseas. So hopefully that'll answer your question. Of course, I'd like to help you out with any other further details. Just let me know.
We have, how do companies engage with your office?
Quite simple. Give us a call, write us an email, and we'll be glad to go. The contact information is on the last slide there. And so please just reach out. I have gray hair. I still pick up the telephone. I don't know about the younger generation yet, but I'm still there to answer the phone. So give us a call and or write us an email. We'll be glad to help you out. And
can you support exportation of products that improve foreign refiners' efficiency?
yes. And in fact, we'd be able to help you identify the refiners and the contacts there. There may be lists available, but if not, then we'd have to get our embassy or consulates involved. And that is not a problem. I'm working with a group out of Veracruz right now. They're building a big terminal in Veracruz, and they're processing ethanol, and it looks very promising. And they're taking baby steps. But I met them a couple of years ago at the ethanol conference, and we're still in contact.
Can you share more about the benefits of export credit insurance from Export-Import Bank of U.S.?
That's a great question. Okay, earlier I talked about mitigating risks and financial risks. One of the big tools that we have that's supported by the U.S. government, in fact, it is the Export-Import Bank of the U.S., is a government agency. They actually give a check back to the U.S. Treasury because of the premiums that they charge. They actually make a little bit of money, and so, of course, they can't keep the money, use it for other things, but the money goes actually back to the Treasury. So the Export-Import Bank, or we refer to it as the industry as Ex-Im Bank. Ex-Im Bank has a credit insurance policy. So once we do the due diligence to find out that your buyer is a credible buyer, you may have a very simple transaction where you can just send them the products and then you can invoice them. And then they have 15, 30, 60 days, whatever you guys work out between yourselves. And then on that invoice sits a credit insurance policy that covers up to 95% of that invoice. So if there is a riot or civil discourse or buyer flakes out, that 95% is sitting there. And so let's say if it's up to $100,000, you get $95,000 that you can claim. The process is about 4 months to do. You have your due diligence that you need to try to collect, and then they want to see that you've tried to make that collection, and then they get involved, and then our U.S. embassies and consulates get involved. And we're not a credit collection agency. We're just sending some strong messages saying you need to pay. If they still don't pay, then it takes them about a month to actually process your claim and refund your money. So I think that's a very good program. It's about 55 basis points or 55 cents for every $100 of value. Could be up to 65 cents depending on the length of the credit terms and also country and destination. You can find out more about those programs at exim.gov. exim.gov. Question, another one?
Then we have, how do I find out more about funding options for overseas trips? I believe you mentioned a group that could help. I think it's called CITV.
Yeah, CATD is what I mentioned. I spelled it out. I'm trying not to be so entrenched into the DC acronyms. So the Center for International Trade Development, CITD, they do offer a fund. It's called a STEP, State Trade Export Program, STEP funding that helps you provide grant assistance for anything related to exports. Now, each state has these. These funds actually come through the Small Business Administration, and then the CITD here in California are the ones that administer locally. So we have a local contact here in Fresno. We also have a contact up in Merced for the Centers for International Trade Development, or CITDs, and they'll be able to help you and assist you with the grant application process. It is a first come, first serve type of thing, so best to act now and identify where you're going to take your opportunities, and then to work with them to see if you can get that grant assistance. It's a really nice, it's like up to $2,500, so I think that's a great help myself. So some of these smaller companies that we work with, that's the airfare, or that's the exhibition booth cost of transporting it over there. You never know, but $2,500, better than that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any other questions? And those are all great questions, so thank you very much. Glad you guys are involved.
Yeah, I don't see any more. Just you can chat them in if you have any other questions.
Well, also, I'll just kind of keep going. This is your time, so you can just cut me off anytime.
You're good. You're good.
But again, some of the biggest things starting out new to exports, if you will be the export regulations and how to get paid. And then also the question about getting the patents or being first to market play. And those are some of the biggest, those are the 3 biggest questions that a company is going to deal with right off the bat. Once we can kind of get through that process, then I believe that you'll be on your road to success and entering in new global markets around the globe. And if there are no further questions.
I think actually 2 came in. What do you think are good exporting opportunities going forward? Just curious.
Well, yours, so all things related, the nexus of water, energy, technology, food is a great space. I often tell when I'm working with and guest lecturing in various classes around Central California, is that I advise the students to get into that space. There are opportunities there that are just amazing. I see them firsthand, and I truly believe that if you're involved with water or energy, renewable energy, and agriculture, and then the whole technology thing wrapped in each and every one of those, there are opportunities abound out there. And for example, the delegation that's coming in from Chile that we sent one of our clients to, they have a new firefighting technique, and it's really a really good way of going. And what you can do is the product that they manufacture is quite simple. It's the delivery system for aerial firefighting that's changed. They have not received, this is really a shame because my health has been impacted recently with the fires here in California. They have a way that they can deliver the fire retardant and or suppression directly over the fires using some very common aircraft, not just aerial firefighter configured aircraft. So that allows the opportunity for various countries around the globe, and that's why it's important. Chile also faces the same sort of fire seasons that we do. They're just offset from us due to the seasons, but they also have the same kind of concerns and challenges that we have, very steep mountain ranges, and it's really kind of hard to deploy specific aerial firefighting configured aircraft where you can deliver their fire suppression system using a C-130 or something. And there's a lot more C-130s out there than are. So those opportunities come about, and that is a great way to get involved. And again, thanks to our embassy maintaining a great relationship with the government of Chile to get this opportunity is one way of going about it. Okay.
And then with your permission, is it okay if we share the slide?
Absolutely.
There we go.
Absolutely. And if you have questions, we can custom tailor a specific session for your company. And again, my colleague Bernadette and I would take the lead on that for you guys. We do this often enough, and we try to get everybody on board in a company that needs to and will be impacted by international trade.
And do you have any really funny export stories?
Yeah, I do.
Uh-oh.
Some of them may not be so appropriate. However, we do have a manufacturer in the region that manufactures a vertical dance poles, which apparently that industry is pushing to get into the Olympics. And they had trouble with transportation logistics because the nature of a pole is in a real long box and they get bent in transportation. And so this was before I actually moved up here into the Fresno area. I worked with the company, and they were really fun. But the technology for this vertical dance pole, shall we say, actually came from off-road racing for a quick disconnect. So now you can use their vertical dance poles, and it's a quick disconnect, so you can move the poles from place to place instead of hard mounting them. And they take 1,000 pounds of force going sideways. So it's amazing how that clamp works, but that clamp came from the off-road industry, and then he saw the application for the, that's just kind of a funny one, but thanks for putting me on the spot with that question.
That is funny.
All right.
And I think no more questions are coming in.
It looks like Peter would like to schedule a one-on-one call, so Peter, please give the office a call. I'll be in there probably after lunch, so give me a call after lunch.
There you go.
Yeah. Anything else?
I don't see any others.
I do have a terrible, funny but sad
Oh no.
export story. It was a fraud case, and the guy invented this. It's called Sure Strike. He made it. He's no longer around, I don't think. However, you put the fishing pole in there, and somehow the fish comes on the line, it drops weight and sets the hook, and I guess you can really go to sleep while you're fishing. But he got this huge order, and I talked about it earlier in the presentation about getting that huge order at first. It was for $1 million, and all the guy saw was $1 million. And they wanted $50,000 to register it with the country. That wasn't legitimate at all. But I was helping them with it, and then I got the Department of State involved, and they also confirmed it. But the guy just saw that $1 million, and he went out and got a second mortgage on his house for that $50,000, and he sent that money in. And that was of course, once he did, he never heard from him again. And he couldn't ask for help because he got all the help up front. He just didn't listen. It was the saddest story, and but it's kind of funny because I'm thinking, that Sure Strike thing just kind of takes the fun out of fishing. But oh well. Sad but true. But that's the only guy couldn't help. But he didn't want the help. He didn't listen.
Another. Will you make the slides available? Yes.
Can we make them available on your site?
Yes. Yep.
All right.
We will
So
make them
Courtney's going to
available.
keep the presentation. She's going to load it up on their site. You guys are familiar working with them, so you should be able to conveniently go there and pull down the presentation today. How's that?
That's perfect, and I will send everyone a follow-up email with the link.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't see any others.
Okay, all. Well, again, thank you for your time today. And, if all questions regarding to exports, please give us a call. We'd be glad to help out. We've helped out in all different realms of exporting. We've seen a lot over the years. And so we'll make sure that you're successful, that you get started off on the right foot. And more importantly, in a few years' time, your business income will be diversified and be able to weather pretty much any kind of downturn in the economy. Thank you again.
Thank you.